immense pleasure of introducing you all of our today's speaker, Mr. Prashant Ahir. Mr. Prashant Ahir, an accomplished HR professional with over 25 years of experience in almost all aspects of human resource management, has worked with some of the best names in manufacturing industry. Sir has completed his BE in Civil Engineering from Veer Mata Jirabai Technological Institute, and then his MBA in Organizational Behavior from IIM Ahmedabad. Currently, he is pursuing his PhD in Human Resource from Mumbai University. Sir started his career with Procter & Gamble in the year 1993 as head sales HR. Sir was actively involved in the JV between P&G and Godrej Soaps. Sir later moved to Reliance Industries as Assistant Vice President HR. Sir then moved to Mumbai, where he was involved in hiring professionals for venture capital funding. In Sir's tenure with Thermax, the company was experiencing a vacuum in the HR department for 2 years and was moving from paternalistic culture to performance-oriented culture. Under his leadership, Thermax won the Mercer BT Award as the third best place to work. Sir then moved to work for Tata Motors Limited, where under his leadership, they received 2 prestigious HR awards, namely Golden Peacock Award for Training and SAIL Excellence in HR Award. At present, Sir is heading HR function of a leading business conglomerate called Reliance Industries Limited and is deeply involved in the HR transformation exercise that this organization has taken. We are privileged to hear you as amongst us, sir. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I thank Bala sir and my dear friend Professor Suresh Padi, whom I don't see here right now, for inviting me for this address. You know, after I started working in Mumbai in 2012, I moved off their radar. So my interactions with Professor Bala as well as Professor Padi reduced a lot. However, I think I'm now glad to be back here. I remember my first campus visit when I had just come to Pune in 2002 to work with Thermax. I was invited by your institute for a campus placement round. And you know, it was held in a school at Yeravda. Now, from that point in time, this institute has come a long way, and I can only look at it with awe and respect, and also draw inspiration from a person like Professor Bala. And of course, congratulations to all of you who have made a terrific and wise choice of becoming a part of this institute. And I'm sure the 2 years that you have spent here or you're spending here are, you know, going to shape your future and going to shape your personality in a significant manner. You know, in my career of not 25, about 30 years now, I am older by another 5 years. So in my career spanning 3 decades of managerial and leadership evolution, I have actually worked on, if I recall, I have actually worked on manual typewriters. Thereafter, I worked on electronic typing machines. Thereafter, I remember we used to have those disks. You put those disks in your hard drive and you access the computer. I also recall using acetates or, you know, transparencies for presentation. Most of these things, your generation would probably have only heard of it, not even seen. And do you believe that we used to book an STD call? In my days, not so long ago. In 1988, when I started working, we used to book a STD call. You will also surprised to know that I have carried pager in my pocket. I worked with a sales HR company, and I used to carry a pager in my pocket. And you know, I have also used paging as a means of communication. Now, as I look back as those days, I realize that our society, the humanity, has walked a long distance, and I have trudged along. I think I have done fairly okay, and I would be or should be able to manage even the future transition, as you know. So I thought, until I read about some mind-boggling, futuristic, but certain to happen technology evolutions, and I could not actually believe that these kind of technology breakthroughs are likely to happen in my lifetime. You know, as I look back in our times, I find that most innovations, most innovations which failed, they did not fail because the R&D was not able to execute or R&D was not able to design. I think most of these innovations failed because the timing was not right. You know, in any innovation, as you introduce, you are required to ride the wave of change. If you are early, then you get submerged. If you are late, then you have a lot of catching up to do. So the timing has to be absolutely on the dot. And only those companies which have innovated just at the right time have been able to successful, and they have become really successful companies. You know, in our times, we used to study. I think you must have, if not studied, at least would have heard. We used to study Kodak. Have you heard of Kodak? Yeah. So probably you have also heard about the story of Kodak. Now, do you know that Kodak was the most innovative company in its times? Today, we credit Apple for taking the desktop computers to majority of homes in the US, but you will be surprised to know, or you may be aware, that Kodak had actually conceptualized this product. However, they could not encash on it. And thereafter, as the digital age of photography emerged, you know what happened to Kodak? They just couldn't believe that the digital photography could be any match with the classical photography. And rest is the history, as they say. Theoretically, they were right. I mean, theoretically, you will still find photographers who like to use the DSLR or the earlier cameras, not the digital ones. However, with the introduction of digital, the entire market dynamics changed. With the introduction or with the embedding of cameras in mobiles, everybody became a photographer, correct? So the whole market dynamics change, the customer base changes, and I think Kodak was not able to anticipate that. And that's how they were left behind in the game. On the other hand, in my times, we have also studied a giant company like IBM. You know, I don't know how many of you know, but IBM, which is again a great innovative company, was on the brink of extinction. IBM would have collapsed. IBM would have been wiped out until a managing director or the CEO came and he started making radical changes, and he proved to the world, and there's a famous even book written on it, Elephant Can Dance. So he's the person who proved that even a giant organization like IBM has in its genes to adapt, to change, to innovate, and to progress. Well, in your time, and I'm sure since you have some of you are marketing students, you must have dissected and analyzed what happened to Nokia. Company which was enjoying a market leadership with 50% plus market share. What happened to this company that it started struggling, and it struggled so much that it collapsed? Isn't it? On the other hand, you must also study another company like Maruti Suzuki, which in the competitive market, even today, enjoys 50% plus market share. How do they do it? Where is, you see in your city, in commercial vehicle market, Tata Motors, which used to have 60% plus market share, today are languishing. However, Maruti, it's surprising to see how Maruti has been able, in spite of Hondas, in spite of Toyotas, in spite of all your competition, Maruti has been able to hold on to its market share. What study? Again, if you are the crest of the wave, when you innovate, you will reap the fruits. So, I would like to go back with what I started. I started saying that I was under the impression that so far I have managed the technology changes pretty safely, except today when I was trying to download my presentation from my handset to a pen drive, and I couldn't do it. But it was okay because some of the students also couldn't do it. So I don't think it was so bad. But I have managed the transition pretty well. This is what I was thinking. There is a person called Dr. Kurzwitz, and I suggest you should read his blogs or you should read his website. Now, this person talks about the future of technology. Now, you will be wondering that this person is an HR person. I am an avowed HR person. This person is not a technology person. Yes, I'm not a technology person except for my education. By education, I'm an engineer, but otherwise, I'm not a technology person. Why the hell he is talking about technology changes? Well, I'm talking about these changes because these changes are going to impact drastically the way we do things, the way we manage our businesses. And therefore, as students, you may not study, but you must be aware of what kind of technology changes are happening around us, okay? Even HR is not insulated from technology changes. Today, the artificial intelligence is making inroads in HR much faster than many other fields. Those of you, I'm told that there are no HR students here because this institute doesn't offer specialization in HR. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was misinformed. Anyway, so I'm glad to see my young fraternity sitting here. Well, those of you who have taken HR because they hate statistics will soon find yourself in soup, because Look at HR analytics. The field that has emerged so fast and so aggressively in last 10 years or so is nothing but data crunching, data analysis, data interpretation, making sense of data. And you, as HR students, must come to grips with it, isn't it? So, don't be so surprised if I talk about the future technology trends, and allow me some indulgence. So, the next decade or so is going to be potent with some technology explosions that is going to impact the way we work or we get our work done. And therefore, it is important to understand them at a broader level. 20 years ago, when computers, LAN and WAN were happening, and I was just trying to learn them, my boss used to tell me, I had for some time an American boss, and he used to tell me that, Prashant, remember, in another 2 to 3 years, people will be able to work from anywhere, anytime. Okay? Have you heard about this phrase? This became a famous phrase afterwards. He must have picked up from some book. It's called working from anywhere, anytime. So 24/7, you can work, and you can work from anywhere. You may be on a holiday on a beach, but you can work from there. Technology has made it possible for all of you to do that. However, what he did not tell me was that it will be anywhere, anytime, and anybody. Now that's important. What I mean by anybody? People do not talk about human beings now. People talk about, yaar, mere ko ek C++ chahiye, and mere ko ek Java chahiye. This is how people talk, correct? So if you have skill set that you can offer, then whether it is Mr. Prashant Ahir doing it, or whether it is some Dr. Suresh Padi doing it, the customer or the employer is not bothered as long as the work gets done. And this is the scariest part. Anywhere and anytime was not so scary as anybody, correct? When I was working with Compton Greaves, way back in 89, 90 at Nashik, we had commissioned, or we had started, a young industrial electronics division. And since it was an electronics division, we wanted it to be very different than the conventional Compton Greaves units. So in this unit, we introduced, I was the young HR head of that unit. So along with my boss, I introduced a concept of location/vocation flexibility. Okay? What does it mean? That I am not branded by any trade. I will do the job which is assigned to me. So I will not say that, yesterday I did soldering, so today also I would do soldering, and next day I will do soldering. No. If soldering is required, you will do soldering. If quality testing is required, you do quality testing. So, which is called vocation flexibility. And along with vocation flexibility, there was location flexibility, because you will move from workstation to workstation. So you don't have an assigned workstation. So if you're doing soldering, you will go to workstation A. If you're supposed to do quality testing, or if you're supposed to do assembly, then you will go to workstation B or workstation C. It depends. Now it worked fine for 3 months, and this is interesting insight that I got from that experiment. After 3 months, we didn't have, mature union leaders, but whatever union leaders we had, they came, they said that, Prashant, we want to meet you. And I asked them to meet me, and we started discussing. And they said that, do you know how scary it is that you walk into the office every day, you walk from the main gate to the office every day without knowing which table you're going to work on. Okay, this is what the union leaders told me. And that's the time I realized that, yes, while my concept of location and vocation flexibility is fine, I will have to either temper it, or I will have to give it some human face, or I will have to make it so receptive that people do not have this fear in their mind. But just imagine, I go into the office, you know, after you join a company, you go to the office and you don't know where you're going to sit and what you're going to do on that day. Now, this is what the union leaders were trying to convey to me, but today, this is going to become a reality. And that is why that anywhere, anytime is not so scary, but the anybody part is very scary. So this is the transition that I have seen. It is now established, this is what this Professor Kurzwitz says, that it is now established that computation power and information technology has seen exponential growth, basically doubling the power of computation every year. Every year, you are doubling the power of computation. And at this rate, people say that artificial intelligence is going to take over the human brain in another 15 to 20 years. Now, same is true with biotechnology. You know, it took us 15 years to sequence the, you know what is DNA sequencing, right? Even if you don't know, don't ask me, because I will not be able to explain to you in technical terms. But DNA sequencing basically tells you that what is the constitution or composition of a DNA of a particular organism, and how you can manipulate or how you can change it. So the DNA sequencing for HIV was done in almost 13, 14 months. But for SARS, which is, you know, the, what you call the severe acute respiratory syndrome, for SARS, it was done hardly in 11 days. So you see the power of technology explosion, how technology is able to do things faster and faster. So this researcher called Kurzwitz talks about 3 great revolutions, and I'm not going into the scientific details, but I want you to have a picture of this in your mind, because as I said, this is going to impact the way we operate. So this person talks about the 3 major technology breakthroughs happening in areas of GNR. G is genetics, N is nanotechnology, and R is robotics or artificial intelligence. Now let's talk about genetics. Now genetics means we are going to have access to tools which can actually understand the biological information processes. You know, our body is also a machine. Our body responds, our body adapts. Now, if you know how those changes are happening at the cellular level, then you have a chance to manipulate those changes. And you know, our body has evolved, as you know, you have studied Darwinism in your school, so our body has evolved over a period of time, and it is still in the process of evolution. All right? People say that 100 years or 200 years later, the average height of a human being is going to be 4.5 feet. I don't know how far it is true, but this is how technology is getting forecasted. Nonetheless, I'm not getting into those details, but you can actually look, you can actually study the response, what should I say, algorithm of your body, and make codification, make changes. Now, how exciting is that? For example, you know, in age-old days, when our body evolved, we were in jungles, you know, we were living in jungles, and we were hunting. And we used to hunt, and we used to kill, and we used to eat, and you don't know when your next prey is going to be available. So it could be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. You don't know when you're going to get your next food on your table. So our body developed in that manner. So there is something called, there is a gene in our body which is called fat receptive gene, which means that whenever it has to burn a calorie, it senses and it awakens your body, and it tells a message that while you are having your food right now, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, because you don't know what you're going to hunt tomorrow. So better to conserve, better to convert it into a fat so that it is available as a source of energy to your body, maybe tomorrow, day after, when you have your lean patch or lean days. Now this system continued. Even today, this system continues. Whereas the sources of or availability of food has gone multiplied, but our body has not responded so fast. And therefore, now scientists are working on this. I'm just giving you an example. So scientists are necessarily not working on only these things, but scientists are working on this gene, and they say that if we manipulate this gene, you will be able to eat as much as you want without putting on weight. Should I repeat? You can, if you manipulate this gene, which is the fat receptive gene, your body will not necessarily convert your food intake into fats, because it doesn't have to bother about what happens in future when you go through the lean patch. And therefore, you can go on eating without putting on weight. How exciting is that? Actually, when I asked, whether I should repeat, only ladies said, yes, sir. I don't know why you would carry this burden of being all the time slim. Doesn't matter, but this is a good news for you, that we will be able to manipulate gene, and you can eat as much as you want without putting on weight. And this is going to be this is going to be a reality in our time. And on a more serious issue, just forget about this research, but there is research happening wherein you can actually work on your cancer genes, because if it's encoded in your body, there are, when you say that I have a hereditary or such diseases, they are encoded in your genes, and if you work on those genes, you can have a disease-free offspring. So you may have in future you may have designer babies, and you will have healthy children if you able to reprogram it. So this is about genetic science, and there is a lot happening in genetic science. The next frontier, technology frontier that I talk about was nanotechnology. Now, do you know what is the biggest problem that humanity is facing today? And let's not talk about pollution, let's not talk about population or pollution, because I think those are not so big as the problem of energy security. People do not know from what is going to be my next source of energy. We talk about wind energy, we talk about photo or sunlight, we talk about wave energy, we talk about various sources of energy, but nothing seems to be coming to a level of practicalism or to a level of implementation. Now look at this exciting opportunity that nanotechnology opens up. You know why? The sunlight that you get, if you are able to convert only 0.03% into energy, stored energy, then all your energy problems will be solved. You don't have to worry about fossil fuel getting depleted, or you even don't have to worry about the environmental hazards of nuclear energy. Just 0.03%. What's stopping us? What is stopping us is the whole process is very, very capital intensive. It is money intensive because you have to create those solar panels, and those solar panels are inefficient, or those solar panels are heavy, they are big, and the whole process becomes messy or inefficient. Now, if you marry nanotechnology and IT, then you get something by which you can have most efficient, less space taking solar panels, which will help you create the photo energy. And that will solve. And if you capture 0.03% of sunlight, that's about what you want. And if you capture that, your energy problems will get solved. So nanotechnology will help you manipulate your solar panels in a way, or photovoltaic cells in such a manner that it will become more manageable, it will become more unwieldy, it will become more efficient, and it will help you to generate your energy. And nanotechnology has many other applications. You know, people are talking about what is known as, I forget the word, it is called nanobots. Have you heard about the word nanobots? Yes. So people are talking about nanobots. These nanobots are, you know, size of your blood cells. They are injected into your body. And once they are injected inside the body, they can do wonders. They can go and kill cancer cells. They can go and correct some, DNA reprogramming programming. People are going a step ahead. Now, there are neuron cells or neuron bots which are being put into your brains, which will complement your own neuron network. And just imagine the Alzheimer, people suffering from Alzheimer, or people suffering from Parkinson. Now, if you have this moving inside your head, then you have solved the problem, isn't it? There was this story somebody shared with me. Of course, this person wouldn't have heard about nanobots, and he says that God asks a man who was, old and ailing. He said that to balance your karmas or to balance your sanskaras, I will have to give you something, and that something will be either Alzheimer's or Parkinson. You pick, your choose. You know what did he answer? Anybody knows what he answered? What you would answer? Parkinson? Okay. Yes, he answered. He said Parkinson. And the reason he gave was, it is better to spill the wine rather than to forget where the hell you have kept it. Isn't it? So, if you have liquor, it is better to spill some liquor rather than to forget the next day, oh my God, where did I keep my liquor? So but this will become a passe if you have these neurobots moving into your head. The problem will be solved. You will have your liquor and without having Parkinson. So that is the second. The third one, which is immensely exciting, is robotics. And you have seen applications of robotics everywhere. There are robotics managers today. In the US, even in Google, I'm told, for the first screening interview, you don't have a HR person or you don't have a technical person sitting there. You have a robot sitting there who interacts with a human being as fluently as any human being can do. So this is what artificial intelligence is going to do. And now what are the implications of this? The first implication is that the longevity or the life expectancy of human being is changing. In 1800, the life expectancy was hardly about 37. And therefore, probably you did not have population problem. In 1900, the life expectancy became 50 years. You know what is it today? Today, globally, I'm not talking about India, globally it is pushing 80, 80. So people will have to look at their own employment models. People will have to look at what to do with this potent 60 to 80 workforce. You just can't ignore them. And therefore, I said that all this is going to impact the way how we conduct our business. Also remember, let's assume that people retire at 60, but they are not going to keep quiet, because, I mean, you just don't live because you want to live, you know, because you're not dying. So you will have, you would like to expand your activities. You will like to expand or enrich your life. And that enrichment itself will throw up many opportunities for businesses. So there have to be, once you have this, once you have these three frontiers of technology, and remember, they are not working in isolated manner. They are working in a convergent manner. So once you have this, you will have to decide how I reach faster to my customers, and how do, for example, this, if you have this, as I said, nano neurons, market research will change dramatically. You don't have to go to that interview, that survey methodology, because you will be able to manipulate the thinking of human beings. I think it is going to, both ethically, unethically, it is going to open up new vistas of opportunities. And all students like you who are just stepping into your careers, you are on the threshold, I think you are going to have exciting time with all these things happening. However, while I say all this, I must tell you that there are certain things which do not change. God created this world with certain basic rules, and those basic rules do not change. The law of nature does not change. If you sow mango, you cannot expect to pluck apples, correct? So those basic things will remain same. Law of karma will continue to operate. So as a leader, when I am navigating future, I'm doing well on time? How much time I have? I'm sorry? So how much time is left? 20 minutes, and I also have to take questions, right? Okay. So anyway, I would like to wrap it up, but this is very important. So as I look at the emerging leadership, I find that there are certain things which are not going to change whichever way the technology goes. And I call them 5 C's of leadership. You know, it is so easier to remember when you have this kind of consistency of thoughts, and therefore I call them 5 C's of leadership. You know what is the first C? Anybody wants to take a guess? Curiosity? It will come later, it's not first. No, the first one, let me talk. The first one is character. You have heard about Warren Buffett, right? The great all-time investor of our time. So Warren Buffett was asked once that, you know, when you look at CEOs for your companies, what are the 2 fundamental things or competencies that you look at? And he, without thinking, said that my leader must have a strategic mindset and my leader must have a strong character. And then this interviewer pushed him and he said that out of these 2, if you were to choose just one, what will it be? And he said, character, character, character. And what is character? Character is not having no vices, you know. I don't drink, I don't booze around, I don't whatever, I don't smoke, whatever. I mean, you can add the list because I think you are much more better, you will be much better than me at my age. But this is not character. So what is character? Character is your ability to carry the courage of conviction. Character is your ability to stand for what is right. That is character. I'll tell you a story that will probably help you understand this. You have heard about a company called Levi, right? It's a pioneering jeans brand originated in the US, and they were the original jeans maker. Now, company was doing well and really very well. However, competition caught up, and in late 80s, there were various jeans brands which were, cutting at the market share of Levi. And Levi somehow, Levi today, by the way, is still 4.65 billion company, $5 billion company. In those days, Levi thought, because the image of Levi was that, it's my papa's jeans. So my papa used to wear it, so why should I wear it? This is, kind of papa's jeans, so I don't want to wear my daddy's jeans. So most of the youngsters did not find it cool to use Levi jeans. And with this performance declining, as it happens in the US, a new CEO took over in late 90s. And the first thing that he did was, sometime in 1991, he created what is called a terms of engagement. And the terms of engagement were nothing but a code of conduct to guide ethical production at all its supply. It's a global organization. So somewhere you are getting things manufactured in Vietnam, somewhere in Uganda, somewhere in China. So you need to have a code of conduct. You need to have some ethical standards. So he created these terms of engagement. And this happened in 1991. And so it was publicized, advertised. You know how good US companies are in advertising. So all that was done. In 1993, while the performance of the company was still on decline, the only territory that was making profit was the Asian territory, because it was using products manufactured in China, and it was low-cost manufacturing. The margins were healthy, and therefore company was kind of surviving. And you know what happens? Amnesty International puts a claim or accuses Levi of labor law violations in China. Have you heard me? Okay. Now, obviously, this lands up on the CEO's table, and the CEO has to take cognizance of this, because Amnesty International is not an organization that you can ignore. Now, this man, who is in the saddle for about 1 or 2 years, who is trying to redefine the way company does business, is now faced with this challenge of Amnesty International labeling it as a company that is violating labor laws in China. And remember, that's my profitable market. As a leader, you have to take a call. So he gathers his executive team, and you have a legal manager, then you have a marketing manager, then you have a supply chain head, whatnot, all those guys sitting there. And they started presenting, they started talking, they started explaining, they started defending. And this person, the CEO, was asking only one question, and he kept on asking, is it true? Whatever Amnesty International is saying, is it true? Very simple question. He never got the answer. The legal man says that, we can sail through this, and we can file a counter claim and whatnot. The marketing guy says that my margins are healthy and I can do some minor adjustment here and there on margins, but we shouldn't touch the margins. And then the supply chain guy says that we have this terms of engagement and we have implemented it across the globe and whatnot. Everybody has signed contracts with us. All suppliers are on our preferred list, whatnot. So there are n number of explanations which are being offered to the CEO, and the poor CEO is asking only one question: is it true? He never got answer. The fact that he never got answer gave him the answer of that question. Next day, this CEO calls a press conference and announces that effective immediately, based on Amnesty International's accusation, until it is proven right or wrong, I am suspending my operations in China. How bold it is. How bold it is. You are sacrificing your profit-making unit without compromising on your ethical standards. What happened later? You know, one of those youth channels like your MTV or some other channel, by the by, picked up the news, and you know, it was, somebody was being interviewed and he said that, my God, what Levi did is cool. These guys have guts to accept, and not just accept, these guys have guts to suspend the operations in US. How cool is that? And that how cool is that was picked up by even the youth, and the sales started looking up. That was not the intention, but whatever, the market forces helped, the divine forces helped, or whatever helped, the sales started picking up. Levi took 3 years to restart their operations in China. Now this, my friends, is character. The next C that I see is clarity. Leaders must have clarity. Leaders will not know all the answers. They will not know most of the answers. But the leaders must be able to ask right questions. The right question in Levi was, is it true? And he kept on asking that question. The leaders must ask right questions. Only when they ask the right questions, they will get a true perspective. Walt Disney, you know, the first Disneyland was inaugurated sometime in 50s when Walt Disney was still alive, somewhere in California. The next one, which was much bigger, because he found that land was not fulfilling all his dreams. So he said that I need to create another Disneyland, and the work started in Florida, state of Florida, Orlando. And land was purchased, and it was a big land, and all the dream and vision of Walt Disney was getting executed or implemented. Unfortunately, Walt Disney died in 1966 or 67, and the amusement park was actually opened in 1971. So Walt Disney was not alive to see biggest of his dream getting form or shape. So while the Disneyland was at Florida was getting inaugurated, Walt Disney's brother, Ron, who had taken over the charge of the company, was, with, I think, the mayor or whoever, some official of Florida City. And that official said that I wish Walt was alive today to see this. What did Ron say? Ron said, but he had already seen this. In Walt Disney's mind, it was absolutely clear how my Disneyland was going to look, even on a barren land. Correct? That's the power of vision of a leader. So, clarity of vision is absolutely necessary, along with character and courage of conviction. So that's my second C. My third C is about this whole comfort with technological changes. The changes that I talked about, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all this biotechnology, whatever I'm talking about, the leader does not get hassled. The leader does not get challenged with all this. He knows that he is not expert, but he knows what is the worth or what is the value of this technological change. He doesn't resist. He accepts it. And he accepts it with the expertise wherever it lies. So the comfort with this kind of disruptive technological changes is going to be the third characteristic of a good leader. And I have already spoken about it at length, and therefore I don't want to labor much on this in this point, because I think I have explained this enough. The fourth one, as I see, is going to be an very important characteristic called collaborate. Day by day, you will realize that as a leader, you should not do everything, you can't do everything. You need to collaborate, and you need to collaborate not just inside, you need to collaborate even outside, correct? So as you start collaborating, look at, let's say, Uber collaborating with a microfinancing firm. Now, only leaders can have this vision of this kind of external collaborations. Reliance says that I don't have expertise in deep exploration, so I collaborate with BP. Now, these kind of, and I'm not talking about just financial or technology collaborations. I'm talking about both vertical and horizontal collaboration. What is a vertical collaborations? Soon enough, you will have in the organizations people working who are just 20 years of age to 70, 75 years of age. And a leader must be able to collaborate across. People talk about diversity. And I think most of the HR people like me talk about diversity. And I don't think we understand diversity. By diversity, we only understand recruiting more and more women. But that's not diversity. Diversity is accepting differences in perspectives, accepting differences in mindsets, and collaborate to find a common vision, a common path. That is diversity. Just by going to campuses and recruiting ladies or female who are thereafter slowed down on their career track in engineering companies is not diversity. Diversity would mean that when I sit in the meeting, I'm heard, I'm responded to, I'm taken notice of. Now that what I find as real diversity, and a good leader will be able to collaborate vertically as well as horizontally. The last one, the last C that I see is going to be caring and coaching. As a leader, you must care. There's a famous story of Mother Teresa, and I want to end my session on that story, so I will come to that story in a little while. But coaching and caring are going to be important distinguishing characteristics of a good leader. Watch any sports movie. I think it just gives you that power to see how a coach can transform a team. Watch Titans, or watch even a movie like Gold. Gold. how a person with passion, how a person with commitment can actually go and change the entire dynamics in your team. And this is what a good leader does. He coaches and he cares. So, my student friends, I'm going to close my monologue. I can hear the coughing. I get the message. I'm going to end it with a story, and I also going to end it with a message, because, I remember 30 years ago when I used to sit on that side, and somebody will come and stand here and talk. I used to wonder that what this guy is going to talk to me, and why should I listen to him? And I realized that there are two things that I always picked up. I always picked up the vision with which those guys spoke, and that vision was certainly much broader and much deeper than what I could see. And the second one was the practical insights that these guys could give me. And therefore, I have tried to weave in my presentation both the vision that you see in future and how these practical insights are going to be useful to you. All these 5 characteristics or 5 C's that I talked about, how they're going to be useful to you as you become a good leader, correct? On character, I just want you to go back. How many of you has seen Scent of a Woman? My God, so less. All of you should watch this movie. And if you don't have time to watch this movie, just watch Al Pacino's closing address. You will understand what character is. Correct? Ladies and gentlemen, I am so glad to be here. The last story that I wanted to share with you is a story of a small woman, a fragile woman. You would have seen her, or you would have seen pictures of her with little slouch. Now this lady, in her white sari, bordering blue, was invited to a great seminar where world leaders, the CEOs and MDs and whatnot, were all present. And the seminar was about inspiring people, motivating people. And this lady stands on the podium and she says that if you want to inspire or motivate your people, then you should love them. Listen to these words carefully. Yeah? This lady says, if you want to, and this is true for all of you who are going to become leaders, if you don't know the name of the driver who has driven you during the day, you are not a leader. So, this lady says that if you want to inspire, if you want to motivate your people, you must love them. And to love them, you must know them. And the entire hall applauded with the simplicity of truth. This lady, ladies and gentlemen, was none other than Mother Teresa. Thank you so much for